Right, friends, welcome back to Learning Space. A short while ago we discussed about the events of 4th January and now we are going to discuss the events of 3rd January, various articles from The Hindu, and some of our friends suggested that news articles from the Indian Express, Live Mint and other papers also to be taken, and we will definitely take in future, because once we start this discussion after 10 days or 15 days, some of the articles may become repetitive in nature, and in those circumstances we have to go for other newspapers to look at the new aspects. And here yesterday's news articles, this is with regard to sacking of BCCI president and secretary. There is one editorial of The Hindu yesterday, and today also there is one article. So, there are two articles yesterday and today pertaining to the affairs of BCCI. And if you look at Lodha committee, Justice R.M. Lodha was constituted, this committee was constituted, all of you are familiar with, and various guidelines were given by the committee. And if you go back to history, in fact it starts with the Mukul Mudgal committee because of IPL betting scam. I have listed here chronology of events. Because of IPL betting scam, Mukul Mudgal committee was constituted, and based on Mukul Mudgal committee recommendations, R.M. Lodha committee was constituted, and subsequently R.M. Lodha committee gave recommendations. There are 3 members in R.M. Lodha committee, and Supreme Court accepted most of the recommendations, and it gave time of around 5 to 6 months for BCCI to follow those recommendations, and BCCI totally defied the instructions of Supreme Court, and that is why BCCI president and secretary were sacked for contempt of court. This is all history about this BCCI, and if you look at BCCI, it was started as 1928 and it was registered as a society under Societies Act, if I am not wrong, and president is Anurag Thakur, then Ajay Shirke is secretary. And here important guidelines, let us look at important guidelines. Here working committee will become apex council with independent members and women representatives with the maximum strength of 9. There are 3-4 important recommendations I have given, and the next one is maximum age of 70 years. Then the Supreme Court categorically stated all the state associations should follow these, including BCCI. And the next one is no to ministers or bureaucrats, firm no to ministers or bureaucrats, and maximum time period stipulation for holding the posts was also imposed. So, with this in background, the final thing is BCCI defied the instructions of Supreme Court, and subsequently Supreme Court sacked BCCI, you can say. And after looking at this chronology, certain words please do not forget in this article. One is the perjury. What is the meaning of perjury? This is a crime of telling lies to court. If you are putting forth not facts, you are putting forth lies in court. If you say some lie in the court, it tantamounts to perjury, P-E-R-J-U-R-Y. Then there is a difference between persecution and prosecution. Please, these two words are mostly confused, and several times students commit the mistake. Persecution is different, prosecution is different. What is meant by persecution? To understand persecution, it is basically you have to remember Rohingyas. Rohingyas belongs to Rakhine state of Myanmar, and they are being persecuted. What is meant by persecution? Persecution is ill treatment, or you can say cruel treatment, or you can say unfair treatment. So, this is basically persecution. Rohingyas are being persecuted day in and day out in Myanmar. Then the next one is prosecution. Prosecution is officially accusing someone of committing a crime in a court of law. So, there is clear difference between persecution and prosecution. Here these perjury as well as prosecution, and why I discussed this persecution is several times students confuse persecution with the prosecution. Then the next one is as perjury was committed by BCCI, subsequently prosecution will take place. Then if found guilty, punishment will be imposed. So, the sequence of events I have listed here, as they have committed perjury, that means they stated lies to the court में झूठ बोल दिया, so इसी के लिए, so perjury, as they have committed perjury, they are facing prosecution. Subsequently, if found guilty, then they will be punished. Then contempt means strong feeling or disliking and having no respect for someone or something is known as contempt. Frequently you hear about contempt of court, right. And next one is the last sentence in the editorial. It is not clear what course of action, if any, would now mollify the Supreme Court and help them escape the wrath. What is meant by wrath? Wrath means extreme anger. This word quite often you see in newspapers. And if you are not attending college 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, in spite of your principal calling you, you are not going to college, then you have to face the wrath of the principal. So, that is extreme anger. If your father is telling you 2-3 times not to do something, then you are still doing it, then you have to face the wrath of your father. So, this word is very important, several times you find in newspapers. Then mollify, basically to make them less angry. Supreme Court is too angry, and what BCCI will do to reduce that anger. So, this is the meaning of this statement, right. So, having learnt about this, what will happen now? Now, committee of administrators will be appointed that will oversee various aspects, that is one part. The second one is to implement recommendations of RM Lotha committee as well as at state as well as national levels. This committee of administrators will oversee, and it is not clear what this committee of administrators will compose. Then some states will get full member status with voting rights. Some of the northeastern states do not have full membership, and at the same time some other states are there. Total there are 7-8 states which do not have proper membership, and they will get membership. Then voting rights they will get. Then next one is Maharashtra has got 3 cricket associations, Maharashtra, Vidarbha, then as well as Bombay, and one state, one member, one vote rule will be implemented. Then apex council will be constituted. Formation of players associations will be there. So, with this I think you are clear that what Supreme Court wants in its judgment. And finally, this article may not have answers for these questions, but these questions are very, very important. As and when we find some articles, then we can discuss in detail. The first question is, what is the organizational structure of sports bodies in India? What needs to be done to improve transparency? Transparency in sports bodies is the biggest problem. They are working without transparency. Some of them are designated or registered as societies, and some of them feel that they should have required autonomy. In the name of autonomy, they are misutilizing. The biggest problem with the sports associations in our country is they feel on one side they want autonomy, and on the other side what they are doing, they are misutilizing that. So, they have to strike a balance, government has to strike a balance now. And the second important question is the examples of BCCI as well as IOA, Indian Olympic Association, and then FIFA. Recently there was some problem with this football association, World Football Association. The examples of BCCI, IOA, FIFA indicate that something is wrong with the sports bodies. How to address this problem? So, these type of questions, and basically you should be in a position to write how to improve transparency in sports bodies. This article as well as today's article, they are not having sufficient material for looking at these two issues. Probably we have to dig much deeper so as to look into this. What is the organizational structure in present day organizations in India, and why they are not able to maintain transparency? What is to be done to improve transparency, and whether the existing structure of this registering as society and with government's minimum intervention is leading to transparency or not. So, these are the questions, and you have to go into the root cause, and you should be in a position to write, because this is not pertaining to India, this is the problem faced in other countries also, right. So, this is the first article. Next one is New Year's Eve tragedy in Turkey. Turkey is into the news several times. because it is unstable nowadays. Lot of attacks are taking place. So, we are going to discuss about Turkey now, and please look into this map. This is very important. In geography, this year you can easily expect questions pertaining to Syria, Turkey, because of the reason Syria is in turmoil because of civil war, similarly Yemen, similarly Libya. Then Turkey is into the news because it is at the heart of the world, you can say. On one side Europe and on the other side it is Asia. So, it is situated in two continents and it is facing difficult days now. So, Turkey, please look into this. One side it is the Black Sea and other side it is the Mediterranean Sea. More than that, there are attacks in Istanbul. Recently, attacks in Istanbul, and one important aspect is Istanbul is separated by Bosphorus Strait, because geographical aspects are also very important. If something happens in a country other than India, sometimes you may have questions as far as geography are concerned when something happens in some other country. And Turkey is very much important, and here Bosphorus Strait separates the city of Istanbul. And at the same time, don't forget, Bosphorus Strait separates Europe from Asia. And at the same time, on one side it is Balkan Peninsula, and on the other side you will have this Anatolian Peninsula. One is the Balkan Peninsula and on the other side Anatolian Peninsula. So, this Bosphorus Strait separates Europe as well as Asia, that is one important point. And the Sea of Marmara, this is exclusively within this Turkey, that is very important. Sea of Marmara is within Turkey, and this Dardanelles Strait, please look into this map. This map is very important. Dardanelles Strait separates Aegean Sea with the Sea of Marmara. Sea of Marmara is entirely within Turkey. Then Dardanelles Strait separates Aegean Sea with the Sea of Marmara, and Bosphorus Strait separates not only Europe's Turkey with the Asian region of Turkey. Not only that, it separates Istanbul, city of Turkey, and at the same time it is between Black Sea and Sea of Marmara. So, these things are very important if you look at Turkey, and Turkey has got a long border with Syria. Please look into this map, Turkey and Syria. There is a long border between Turkey and Syria. That is one important point, because it is also facing instability because of its actions on not only Syria but also on Kurds. Right. So, these are very important, and here one more important aspect is Kurdistan. There is a demand for greater Kurdistan, and Kurds are situated in 4 countries. One is Turkey, then Iran, Iraq, Syria. Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria. So, Kurds are situated, and this is another important aspect one should not forget. Turkey is in fact waging a war against Kurds. Turkey do not want the rise of Kurds, because there is in fact Kurds are fighting Islamic State better than any alliance. Kurds are not allowing to take their territories in Syria, which is not palatable to Turkey, because of the sole reason, if Kurds strengthen, then what will happen? There will be demand for greater Kurdistan, then Turkey will also be affected. So, geopolitics of this part of the world are very complex. It is very difficult to understand these geopolitics, right? And now this is Balkan Peninsula. Please look into this. Balkan Peninsula starts from Bosphorus Strait, and these countries are all called Balkan countries, right? And this is Anatolian Peninsula towards Asian side from Bosphorus Strait, as I have already told you, right? And now another important aspect nowadays is there is increase in lone wolf attacks. What is the meaning of lone wolf attacks? Today I uttered several words. In fact, these words are very important from the examination perspective, interview perspective, group discussion perspective. And what is the meaning of lone wolf attacks? Lone wolf attacks means one terrorist without much material assistance from the group. He is alone, having only one gun, that is all. He is not without any material assistance from any other group. Nowadays, if you look at the Maoists in our country, Maoists cannot carry out lone wolf attacks, it is not that easy. But most of the Western countries nowadays, especially if you look at USA, several attacks are taking place. One man goes and shoots, that is all, that is lone wolf attack. And if he may be affected by the ideology, but he is not working with any other group. He may be affected by ideology of like Islamic State or Boko Haram, that is different story, but he is not working in a group. And the biggest challenge for the security people is, it is very difficult to find out lone wolf attackers. The activities of groups can easily be found out, but if somebody is attacking, lone wolf attack, it is very difficult to find out lone wolf attacks, it is very difficult in fact. Right. So, this is the meaning of lone wolf attacks, and if you look at the Syrian civil war, this is quite complex. We are going to present one capsule on Syrian civil war, and here this first one, Bashar al-Assad supported by Iran and Russia, and Aleppo was gone into the hands of government forces. So, that is the biggest victory not only for Syria, but also for Russia. Then second one is rebels supported by NATO, Saudi Arabia and its allies, and they suffered a huge defeat in recent times. Third one is Islamic State. Islamic State also suffered some sort of defeat, but it is extending its geographical reach into other countries. That is the biggest worry. Then fourth one I have not listed here. Fourth is the Kurd region. They are monitoring independently and they are not allowing to occupy their areas. So, they are basically you can say around 3 or 4 groups in Syria and fighting for their supremacy. And here why Turkey is into problems. First one is it supported rebels. Please look into this. The second one, they have supported rebels, and ultimately what happened, rebels are defeated by the forces of Bashar al-Assad as well as Russia in several cities. The top 4 cities are now in the hands of government forces. That is the biggest victory for Syria as well as Russia, and now they suffered a lot of defeats. And here another important aspect is entry of Russia totally changed the complex nature of Syria crisis. So, that is not palatable to Turkey, and here it kept its borders open. I have just now told you that it has got a long border with Syria. Please look into this slide. Turkey, Syria, long border is there, and because it has got a long border with Syria, it kept its borders open. That is the biggest mistake it has done. What happened subsequently? As it kept its borders open, basically to support rebel forces, here Islamic State benefited a lot. Several people gained entry into Syria. Not only gaining entry to Syria, the next important aspect is illegal trade of oil also took place between Turkey and Syria. This Islamic State used it to sell oil in Turkey. So, that is the biggest drawback, and ultimately just like what now Pakistan is suffering, Turkey is also suffering to some extent on similar lines. Right? It indirectly perpetrated terrorism. Basically, it thought that it is supporting rebel forces, but ultimately in the long run it resulted in its own downfall, and because of this what happened? The authoritarian tendencies of Erdogan increased in recent times. So, here we have already discussed the second point, it kept its borders open, which ultimately benefited Islamic State with arms as well as illegal oil trade. Then the third one is Kurds are strong force in Syria, but Turkey is trying to suppress them, and instead of attacking Islamic State, it is attacking Kurds. It does not want greater Kurdistan. It is fearing that there may be further demands for greater Kurdistan if Kurds strengthen. So, these are all geo-complex political issues, and we are going to present Syria crisis as a separate capsule. And as you have understood this, here important questions are, how do you view the Syria crisis? Here lot of complex geopolitics are involved. Second point is, why peace in Turkey is essential to the peace in Eurasia region as a whole. Then lone wolf attacks, as I have already explained you, lone wolf attacks are increasing across the world. Identify the reasons for their increase in recent times. So, these type of questions you can expect, and we can further dig on in the days to come, because lot many articles are expected on lone wolf attacks as well as stability of Turkey, which is required for stability of Eurasia region as a whole. So, these things we are going to deliberate in the lectures to come, and several people are worrying about capsules. Capsules will be presented, but 6 are not required in my personal opinion. We will present 3 every week along with the news at a glance as well as the questions and answers. So, total 5 will be there every weekend. So, do not worry about capsules. Please follow various lectures, these newspaper discussions, because you have to read, otherwise you cannot write exam. That is the basic precept of starting this newspaper's editorial discussion. Look at the next one, this is very, very important. All is not well in the army, yesterday's article, and here one important aspect is politicization of army, that is too dangerous. How to prevent politicization of army? Then recently 2 persons were bypassed while selecting chief of army staff. While selecting chief of army staff, please look into this. Navy chief is Sunil Lanba, then Bipin Rawat took over as the chief of Indian Army, and he was selected after bypassing 2 senior officials. He was selected. That is the biggest point of discussion in recent times. And if you look at the hierarchy in the army, field marshal was given only 2 times, and otherwise the highest decoration is general, then lieutenant general, major general, brigadier, colonel. That is the hierarchy in army, and similarly for navy as well as air force I have listed here. And the basic issue is 2 persons were bypassed, and this article is all about what are the issues government not considered while bypassing. So, it raised several questions, and this is very important in the perspective that politicization of army is not expected, not good for any country as a whole. The first point raised in the article is, before violating hierarchical institution like the army, government should have a convincing reason. Government should put forth convincing reason why it is bypassing 2 persons, and that reason was not put forth. Then second point is, if merit is only the reason, why and how the other 2 officers reached that stage, right? We have seen they reached lieutenant general stage. How they have reached lieutenant general stage if they are not competent? Then third point is, annual confidential reports written by the superiors, and at the same time civilian considerations that so and so is having experience in so and so matters are all subjective in nature. Subjective is different from objective. Objective means having valid reason or logic. Subjective means without having valid reason or logic. So, subjective, if I say he is good, it is subjective. If I say he is bad, it is subjective. If I say he is good because of this reason, it is objective. If I say you are bad because of this reason, this is objective. So, subjectivity is there when we are looking at this annual confidential reports. Then the argument that General Rawat has the required experience in certain areas is not a valid explanation, because Chief of Army Staff is not operational commander, he is only the coordinator and the chief strategist. He has to make only strategy, he is not involved in any operations. So, as a person to maintain strategy, as a person to act as coordinator, this is not convincing. Next point is, they are accusations that promotions are based on parochial loyalties. What is the meaning of parochial? Parochial means narrow-mindedness, without broad mind, narrow-minded. If somebody says so and so regiment is supreme and somebody is promoted because he is working in some regiment, Gurkha segment, Gurkha regiment and all, it is not based on broad systemic guidelines, but it is basically based on parochial loyalties. Because I belongs to Gurkha regiment, that is why I promote person from Gurkha regiment only, because army has got several regiments. And promoting one particular sect is basically known as parochial. Then enough recognition is not being given for armed corps, mechanical infantry, etc. So, these are the valid points put forth by the author. And if you look at the suggestions, he also gave suggestions. The biggest problem is politicization of army. If it is there, then what will happen? The top brass, whoever in line to become chief, the top brass, whoever in line to become chief, they will queue to the defense minister or to the prime minister's office. That should not happen in a country like India. Then at all cost, politicization of army appointments must be avoided. That is the fundamental point. Then civilian oversight of the promotional process should be at the highest level. The author recommends that appointments to the chief level must be vetted by an empowered parliamentary standing committee on defense, or it should be selected by a bipartisan selection committee at the highest level. Bipartisan, what is the meaning of bipartisan? Supported by both government as well as opposition. Normally, government and opposition follow different directions. Normally, opposition always oppose government, but when both are coming together, that is a bipartisan approach. If you are liked by your enemy also, that is a bipartisan approach. So, the committee should be bipartisan. What it means to convey is the committee should be consisting of prime minister, leader of opposition, like that. And third one is, message should be sent to the defense forces as a whole that utmost transparency is evolved in dealing with such high level appointments. This is very, very important aspect. And then the questions you can expect: internal discontent and intra-service rivalry. What is the meaning of intra-service? Inter-service. Intra-service means within army itself. There is lot of debate going on because one is superior to others. There are infantry, then mechanical wings, then armory, like that there are several wings in army, and basically intra-service rivalry should not be there. In fact, intra-departmental, inter-departmental is different, intra-departmental is different. Similarly, intra-services, inter-services, both are different. Intra-service means within army itself. Inter-service means between army, navy, air force, like that. So, here the question which you can expect is internal discontent and intra-service rivalry is not conducive to the defense forces as a whole. What is your comment? Then the second one is how to prevent politicization of armed forces. Then what is your opinion about the selection process of high level appointments in the defense forces? Do you think that there is a need for chief of defense staff? Now government is contemplating chief of defense staff. At present we are having army's chief, navy chief, air force chief, and one will be appointed to coordinate. So, whether do you feel there is a need for chief of defense staff so as to ensure inter-service coordination, inter-service coordination. So, these are the aspects which you should not forget, and they should be in your mind. Look at the next article. This is written by Union Minister Venkaiah Naidu about the rediscovery of urban India. Here in this article, the Union Minister stated how the present schemes are different from previous government's schemes, how Amrit is different from JNNURM, and what the government is going to do on smart cities mission. And you can expect several questions on smart cities mission as well as Amrit in future also. This year also you got one question on smart cities mission. And here broader perspectives we deliberated in news capsule during 2016. I have taken some slides. This is more than enough than the article written by Venkaiah Naidu. Here what are the broader perspectives, what are various aspects of implementation, then in general how does it affect the citizens as a whole. Then the next one is problems faced world over to develop such cities, what is international experience. Then the next one is what are the challenges for implementing smart cities. I listed 8 points. I have taken all of them from the capsule which produced in the year 2016. So, please go through these slides, then you can form your own opinion as far as this smart cities is concerned, right. So, I am not going into in detail because of the reason we deliberated as a separate capsule. Please view that in the year 2016. It is available in YouTube under Smart Cities Mission, and what the Union Minister wants to convey is how government is going to implement this, but nothing much there. He is pricing various government initiatives after NDA government came to power and how it is better than the scheme of JNNURM, but more than that you should know about what are the challenges of Smart Cities Mission. And the next one, and all of you are familiar with Amrut, I have taken one slide here. Then the next one is 2 questions you can expect from this Smart Cities Mission. The first one is Smart Cities Mission is creating islands of excellence within the cities with poor civic infrastructure. What is your viewpoint? Definitely, Smart Cities Mission is creating islands of excellence within the cities with poor civic infrastructure. What is your viewpoint? And the next one is, how do you differentiate between Amrut and Smart Cities Mission, and are the objectives overlapping in stricter sense? Right? And these type of questions you can expect. If you look at the next one, what is the special about special courts? And this is all about establishment of special courts. Here the author says that special courts increased in recent times, and if you compare it with 1960s, 70s, 80s, special courts increased enormously. They are established for specific purpose, and they will have the status of district judge, and they are being established to look at the economic offences, then regulatory offences, violating the regulations of the land, law of the land, or you can say violating the regulations like regulatory bodies of RBI or SEBI or TROI, something like that. Then law and order issues, social justice, then national security. If these are violated, then these special courts are appointed to look into specific offences. And what we have achieved with the establishment of special courts, that is discussed in this article, but this article is not sufficient to answer any specific question. The questions will be like this. There is a spurt in establishment of special courts in recent times. Have they served their intended purpose? In this article, only 2-3 aspects are covered, but that is not sufficient. You have to dig much deeper into this aspect. And another aspect is people quite often come across quasi judicial bodies, tribunals, commissions, special courts, and quite often we hear about them and critically comment on the functioning of quasi judicial bodies, tribunals, commissions, special courts. This is another area where you expect questions, right? So, some of the articles are sufficient only up to some extent. What happens is gradually you will find many articles on those subjects in various newspapers. If you combine them, then naturally you can give answer, but one newspaper article sometimes may not be sufficient to answer questions. And this is one aspect. And the second important aspect which I would like to tell you is we have produced several capsules during 2015 and 16, and some of them are still relevant even today. And do not worry about news capsules. And if I want to produce a 6 plus 2 8, sometimes they may become repetitive. That is why I am bringing them down to 5 every week. Not only that, now this newspaper discussion is very much essential to make you understand about the things. Not only that, to improve your reading habit, right. So, this article is not sufficient to answer these questions, and we will look for further articles, and whatever the questions I have raised, they are very much relevant, and some of the questions will be answered through the news capsules in future, and some of them have already been covered previously, just like Smart Cities Mission and jobless growth. Yesterday I found one article in Indian Express, jobless growth, and that article we have already covered in news capsule. Like that, almost 30 to 40% or you can say 50% of important aspects we covered in 2016, which questions can be asked in civil services mains as well as in essay also. We have gone in much deeper detail. So, they are still relevant today. And further, to answer questions like this, quasi judicial bodies, tribunals, commissions, special courts. We will deliberate in the coming news capsules, and we do not want to leave anything. Basically everything will be covered either through newspaper discussions as well as the capsules, and please follow this and you will have definitely better citizen within 5-6 months. Right friends, this is all about various aspects of 3rd January articles. In fact, it is better if we cover 5 days or 6 days a week, but because of some time constraints, at present we are not able to cover, but we will cover all the articles the next day, do not worry. And the second point is from April 1, we will cover 5 days a week. Till April 1, please bear with us. Monday, Wednesday and Friday and 11 o'clock we will cover, and previous days articles also we will definitely cover, and please follow and do not leave here. Please read the article and please try to elicit answers for the questions posed. That is very, very important. The questions which I am posing, getting answers is very important, and in one article you cannot find full answers. Right friends, with this let us conclude this live lecture, and we will meet day after tomorrow, that is the Friday at 11 AM with the news articles of tomorrow and after tomorrow. And as you have advised, we will cover other newspapers also to the extent possible, and have a nice day. Thank you.